Miss Diana Gremillion, thank you for being here.
John, it's such a pleasure to get to connect with you today.
And I'm honored, especially to have you on, knowing your story. First of all, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm great. And you said you're located in Hawaii, right?
Yes. I'm a New York native, but I moved out here to Hawaii to live my dream life and
Mm-hmm.
to start my business here. So,
Which part of Hawaii are you located in?
I live in Oahu, in the city of Honolulu.
In the city of Honolulu. I haven't been to Hawaii myself, but how is everything there with of course with COVID and everything? How are the restrictions there going?
The restrictions are okay. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, they are getting a little more strict here,
Mm-hmm.
just as a result of. I think we tend to be more conservative with our resources because we're on an island and we do provide medical support for much of the other Pacific islands around,
Oh.
not just Hawaii Island, like not just Hawaii, but all of the neighboring Pacific islands and all that. We are, like an important medical facility here, so we kind of take those things very seriously.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, of course, a lot of the industry is also driven by tourism, so it can be this challenge between business needs, health needs,
Yeah.
tourism, and yeah, all that kind of stuff.
And you said you're Filipina?
Yes.
Are you half Filipino or?
No, I'm full Filipina. My mom is from Ilocos Norte,
Mm-hmm.
and my dad is from Batangas.
Do you speak Tagalog or no?
Onti. A little bit.
Oh, a little bit. I see. I see. And then that's
Here
yeah.
in Hawaii, actually, a lot of people speak Ilocano. So I don't have that many folks to even practice my Tagalog with.
But you speak Ilocano or?
No, I don't.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. But what would you say like the percentage of the Filipino population there would be? Just like an estimate, rough estimate.
I don't know, rather high. I feel silly not knowing the number, but I'd want to say maybe like 20-25%.
Mm-hmm. Because I think here in Houston, where I'm from, Houston, Texas, I want to say 50. There's a lot of Filipinos here, so I'm gonna go with 50. I could, if you're watching or listening, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong on the percentage. So because there's lots of them, it's like probably like 50 to 75%. Yeah. But anyway, I guess if I haven't said this already, to start things off, please tell everyone about yourself and like for the ones who are not familiar with the work and what you do.
Yeah. So now these days I work as an international speaker. I'm a master coach and an energy healer, and I help entrepreneurs who want to build the dream life and business.
Mm-hmm.
And I help them do that with energy healing, energy psychology, and the law of attraction.
Mm-hmm.
But what most people don't realize is that all of that kind of woo-woo stuff that I do now was like the furthest thing from where I was when I was just a kid. I started out, I went to math and science high school, and like was very, very based in like mathematics, like really looked at the world in terms of problem and solution.
Yeah.
And I just happened to be a super negative person with a lot of with like a lean towards problems instead of solutions. So I always saw a lot of problems and used that to fix them, but was never really happy. And it was as a result of some crises and transformations that I've experienced that I was actually able to shift my mindset and create a completely different life for myself, where naturally I'm shy and struggle with like social awkwardness. Now I'm an international speaker. Like I struggled with my weight and with my body image for years, and now like I love myself and I'm healthier than I ever was. Just 4 years ago, I had as many illnesses as a 60-year-old woman in my early 30s.
Oh.
And I realized that life needed to change. And it was as a result of a lot of the crisis that I've faced that I've been able to transform. And that's the story that I get to share through my speaking, with my book. I have a book called Manifest Your Dreams. It's a journal that outlines a process that I've found with my clients to transform your results in any situation without needing a ton of time.
I want to backtrack for a second. When you said the word crisis, speaking of crisis, the 20th anniversary of 9/11 is coming up next month. Because at the time this is being recorded, it's August 31st. So I'll try to like get this up as soon as possible. But we all know that 9/11 is one of the events that everyone is here, especially in the U.S., that we, of course, will never forget. You said that you had a poignant life story of rebuilding and triumph that stemmed from your traumatic experience that day. First of all, where were you during that event?
Yeah. So for me, I was a high school senior, just starting school. It was just the beginning of September. So I was just getting back to school, and I was more concerned with who I was going to prom with and college essays than anything else. And I remember, being in the classroom and realizing that the first tower of the World Trade Center had been hit. You could actually see it from our classroom window, what was going on. So we didn't find out, my classmates and I, we didn't find out on the news. We didn't find out because somebody told us or see it on TV. We saw it ourselves. And at the time, we had no idea what was happening. Was it that somebody just accidentally hit the building? What was going on? Like there was really no clarity. And with that, I saw my teachers really trying to stay composed and own the situation. And that experience really rocked my world, because up until then, I had believed everything that my teachers had told me. I had followed all the rules that everybody else had set out for me. And I started to realize more and more that the world wasn't what I thought it was. And that it was one of those moments, just like COVID right now, where like everything changes after that time, where things that you did before then seemed completely crazy. And, it just creates a new normal, if you will, where like life is just irreparably changed after that date. And I know that many people do feel that way about 9/11. And for me, the way that it really changed me was in the realizing that the teachers around me, the people around me who I had always looked to guidance and to tell me what I was supposed to do, I realized that they had no clue. They were just as clueless and, guessing and afraid as I was.
And lots of questions too, right?
Yeah. And so like we had no clue, until the second plane hit that we realized that it was deliberate. So we didn't know, our teachers were trying to keep us away from the TVs and trying to keep us focused on the lesson. But how are you supposed to focus on a lesson when you know what's going on? Eventually they sent us to our homeroom. So we stayed there for a little bit, because we were 2 blocks away from the World Trade Center. We could literally see that through our classroom windows. Like it was that close to us. And we were in our homerooms, figuring out like how we were going to evacuate. And honestly, going through that trauma, I mostly shut down. I mostly don't remember what it was like to go through that, because emotionally it just felt safer to not even touch it. So there are like glimpses that I have as memories of it, but as a whole, I don't remember a lot of it. Like, my next really vivid memory is as we are getting ready to evacuate the building and the teachers are getting ready, to send us through an exit. And that was when the first tower fell. And you can literally feel the whole building shake. The TV monitors are shaking, like, everyone is clinging to something, like not knowing what's about to happen. And as the dust was settling, that was when they chose to send us out. So we were evacuating in the middle of the towers crumbling, walking through the neighborhood where we would, like the route from where we would go from school to home now looked like a war zone instead of like where we would normally go. The subways were shut off. Like you couldn't take the subway. So the only advice that we were given was to just head up head up the Hudson River to just like, because there was nothing else that they could tell us or, do. And like, it didn't make any sense for us to head downtown towards what was going on. We couldn't take the subway. So we just walked. And I ended up walking with one of my classmates. I don't even remember getting on the subway. I couldn't find my friends. Because the World Trade Center was where some of the cell phone towers were, like there was no service. So I couldn't reach my parents this whole time. I couldn't reach my friends. Like it was just pure chaos, where we're being led with no real purpose or no real knowledge. And I realized that me looking constantly in life to other people for their knowledge of what it was that I was supposed to do instead of following what was inside me and really taking charge of my life, just following the pack wasn't working. And so through time, through life experience, eventually I just started to really shift. I had always been, like I said, I'm a huge math nerd. So and I'm super practical. So I decided, okay, well, let me go into business. I like numbers, I like money, I can do this.
Yeah.
Ended up working as an investment banker.
Oh.
And actually was working at Credit Suisse in debt capital markets during the time of the global financial crisis.
That was like what,
So
2008, right?
Yeah, 2009.
Okay.
Yeah, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
So just as they were starting to close the banks and make a lot of these decisions for banks that were basically folding their debt divisions, that was part of the industry that I worked in. And in the company where I worked, I remember the day that my boss got laid off, and just realizing, like God, this is like another situation. Here I am, like following the rules, and it's clear that like I don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I do remember, even though I don't remember a lot about 9/11 in the events of it, I do remember how the city rebuilt when it seemed impossible. I remember watching and being like, I don't know how this is going to happen. And seeing people band together, come together, help each other, and rise. And so I decided, even in the midst of not knowing how I was going to overcome, like this realization that my job was on the line, I was like, okay, well, I need to come up with some kind of plan. What if this could be happening for a good reason? And, so I thought about it and was like, well, I guess I could work for a hedge fund. I could go back to business school. I could do all these different things. And as I was weighing my options, I heard, a voice say to me, like, well, if you go back to school, it's going to be culinary school. And that made no sense because neither of my parents knows how to cook. I learned how to cook watching the Food Network. When I was a teenager, I'd see that, Rachel Ray make something and be like, oh, that's cool. Like, let me try to make that. And it actually would turn out. But like, as much as it didn't make sense, I also noticed that like, even after a 14-hour, 16-hour day, six days a week of working as a banker, I would still find that at the end of that day, I would want to come home and bake. I'd want to come home and cook. And so to me, that meant that even when I had no more energy, when I was fully depleted from tasks, I still somehow had energy for cooking. That meant there was some passion, there was some fire there. And I was like, okay, like maybe I don't have everything that I want. I'm in the middle of losing my job, but what if I could turn this situation around? What if this could actually turn into something even better? What if I followed my passion? I ended up going to culinary school, ended up meeting my husband there. We moved out to San Francisco together. We had this dream of opening restaurants together, being this like husband and wife chef team. And so our plan was for him to work at restaurants where he could be creative and really run the place as a chef. And because of my business expertise, I really wanted to understand the processes and how things ran and worked. So I was much more systems and engineering kind of focused, and he was much more of the artist. I was looking at the systems and the science behind it. He was looking kind of at the art, if you will.
I see. But how many? Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask like how many businesses you guys established.
So we hadn't started our own business because we were learning from other people. So he worked as a chef of a restaurant at in San Francisco. That's a James Beard Award winning restaurant.
Mhm.
And me being a finance person, I was about diversifying my assets. So I worked at an American restaurant, like a Michelin-starred restaurant, at a pizzeria.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to learn food business.
Mhm.
Eventually we decided to move to New York, and we're
Mhm.
working there. And I was working for a famous restaurateur out there, opening different restaurants. And I was able to rise through the ranks of his company really
Mhm.
quickly because of my business expertise, and then also my culinary. And then because I'm this systems person,
Mhm.
you know, success in food, success in life is really about consistency. So it's not just about creating a like success one time. It's about how do we create consistent success even when the conditions are against us, right?
Mhm.
So even when we're in the middle of crisis, even when we have, you know, the worst cook on station, how can we still produce something that is as excellent as can possibly be?
Mhm.
But that's the kind of way I like to design systems. And that, you know, that got me noticed at this restaurant group. And as a result, you know, I was given many promotions in like a pretty short period of time. I had like a lot of challenges that ended up working out my way, you know, that were thrown to me. And, you know, I was like, I'm one of these people who can handle stress like a champ. You know, I thrive in these situations.
Mhm.
And I was doing well in them, you know, and there were some, you know, health things that were going on the side, like I was breaking out in hives every now and then, you know, but I could cover that up in a chef's coat. And I
Yeah.
had developed pain in my feet from all the walking because I was helping to manage like a 10,000 square foot kitchen, like a commissary kitchen in Manhattan.
Mhm.
And I developed foot pain as a result of that. And, you know, but I could wear custom orthotics and like do
Mhm.
certain things to make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Um, Eventually, I was tasked with opening 9 different restaurants in 2 different
Oh,
states,
dang. Which states
all
are
on the
they?
same day.
Which states are they?
DC and New York.
Oh,
DC and New
okay.
York.
I see. I see.
Yeah,
That's cool.
yeah. So I was opening these restaurants all on the same day. And as
Wow.
the day got closer, you know, I saw more and more of these signs of stress. But like I was busy. I
Yeah.
had a lot going on.
Mhm.
Um, and I realized, you know, like the day of opening, I
Mhm.
woke up that morning and saw a huge bald spot on the right side of my head. It was about the size of a quarter. You know, I had noticed this like pile of hair on my pillow, and I was like, "What is this?" So I rushed over to the bathroom, saw this huge bald spot. You know,
Mhm.
but I was in the middle of opening 9 different restaurants, and you
Yeah.
know, had set up teams and done all this different stuff. I didn't have time
9 different
to worry
restaurants,
about
man.
that. You know, so I just covered the bald spot up. I just covered it up so that nobody could see it.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I just kept going. And it wasn't until about 2 weeks later, when I was leaving DC to go back home to New York,
Mhm.
that I really thought and realized what I was doing and what was going on.
Mhm.
You know, because I, again, like just like in 9/11, just like um, when I thought I was losing my job, I kind of numbed out and like made like decisions just for the crisis in the moment of what I
Mhm.
was going through. And I realized, you know, like I don't want to keep living this way.
Yeah.
I'm stressing myself out, and now I'm in my early 30s and I have as many diseases as a 60-year-old woman. Like I don't want to live
Yeah.
like this. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to struggle and be sick for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
And I realized, you know, like, okay, well, if I look at this, the common denominator on all these situations, like, yes, I've been dealt tough hands, but every single time I've been able to turn it around. And so, yeah, again, maybe I'm being dealt a tough hand, but I know that I've been dealt tough hands before.
Mhm.
I've survived difficult things that I didn't know how I was going to survive. I found a way. And even if I don't know how right now, I can do it again.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was like, but something has to change because I don't want it to be like this where I keep getting stressed out and sick and, you know, like not feeling in control of my life.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, like I told my husband about, you know, there was time to follow our dream of moving to Hawaii and, you
Mhm.
know, starting a business in some form. And he was on board, and he was like, okay, let's go, you know, but you know, as he was thinking about it, he was like, well, Diana, what's different this time?
Mhm.
And I was like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, we've moved before. You moved from San Francisco, you moved to New York, like we're going to move to Hawaii. what's going to make this time different? Like, what's going to really make you happy this time? And I realized, like, I couldn't just keep doing what I had been doing before, just studying on my own without really getting support outside of me. And so that led me to working with holistic healers in energy healing, in Reiki. In like working with a therapist who specializes in energy psychology, getting coaching in the law of attraction, working with my mentor to also show other people how to use these same tools with systems for results that last. Yeah. Because again, like for me, it's all about systems and results that last. And, now I can't, because I worked and stressed myself and believed in that hard work ethic so much, it cost me. I couldn't open a restaurant with my husband anymore because my feet, like I can't stand for more than 2 hours without being in excruciating pain.
It took a toll on you, basically.
Yeah, like I can't physically do what I used to do anymore. Yeah. And it killed my dream and his dream and, like rocked us in a way. But I knew again, having survived 9/11, having gone through all these different things that like, even in the middle of being rocked, I knew I've survived hard things before and I might not know how, but if I can remember that I'm not here to be a victim, that I can find a way to be victorious. Yeah. That I can find a way to shift this nightmare experience and build a dream life off of this. That's what I can do. And now, so like maybe I don't cook professionally anymore, but I still get to cook and share my creations and show people recipes and maybe it's just not in a restaurant anymore. And now like I had always wanted to own my own business and I was always too afraid to do so. I was super introverted and shy. I used this work to overcome that and to become an international speaker. Like there were so many dreams. Even transforming my health seemed impossible because I was at battle with my body. And now I'm the co-founder of a body positivity podcast. Like there's just so much about who I am that has changed. Because every time I've seen crisis, I see opportunity. I don't see what it is in the moment only. I know that thing that looks like a pile of manure, that seems like something that none of us wants to step in or be in, can actually be fertilizer. And that we can grow something in that and create something. And I believe that we are the personal chefs of our life. We all get dealt different ingredients in life. We don't, some of them are bitter, some of them are sour, some of them are salty, some of them are good. Yeah. But sometimes we tend to focus on the bitter and the unpalatable things. But as a chef, I believe that every ingredient, we can draw out the excellence. We can draw out some good from it, even if it seems like it's rotting. Even if it seems like it's like there's nothing good to be had of that, we can find a way to transform those ingredients, pull out the best of them, and create something worth celebrating. This is how we in food cultures came up with things like fish sauce, right? It's through the fermentation and the rotting process. Even wine is a part of the fermentation and the rotting process. This is us coaxing out flavors, developing depth and nuance and richness beyond the original ingredient, beyond what looks like trash in the beginning. We turn it into something that defines a cuisine or that elevates food and makes it special in a way that nothing else can be. And that's what I believe that we have the opportunity to do with life's rotten ingredients, the crises that we face, the difficulty, the pains that we go through. We can turn these around, pull out some of the good, pull out some of the lessons, learn from it, rebuild as a result of it, build stronger, build something with so much more depth than we had in the beginning. And that's what I think COVID is about too for us.
Oh, that analogy with like ingredients and that, I'm stunned but why do you think I want to get back into like when you said like it's easy to be concentrated on like the bad ingredients? Do you suppose it's I mean, since you brought it up, I'll ask it anyway. Is it because of in the heat of the moment that's the reason why we tend to focus so much on the bad ingredients, if you will? Is it because in the heat of the moment, or
It's a survival mechanism.
Mhm.
You know, we want to avoid threats. We want to avoid danger. So we
Mhm.
look out for danger. We seek it in a way. And so it can seem just like for me when I sought out problems, I thought that by noticing problems, by noticing the 2% that's missing instead of the 98% that's good, that I was perfecting the system. But I was in a place where I was constantly unhappy and dissatisfied because I wasn't at 100%. And even when I was,
Mhm.
at 100%, then it was like, okay, now it's on to the next thing, which is not 100%.
Mm.
So I was constantly feeling empty, even though I was achieving a lot, because I was looking always for the problem. I was always looking for the thing to solve instead of basking and living in the solutions, creating the dream, the results that I really wanted. I was instead manifesting and attracting problems.
Very well said. Do you say the same thing to your clients too? Well, when they do some coaching, or do you say the same exact thing? Because that's very well put. Yeah, that's a nice way to look at it, Bill.
Yeah, I think it's just important to realize that like we think that our circumstances, we think that the ingredients are in charge, but if that were really true, right, on Top Chef, have you ever watched like a cooking show or anything like that?
Mostly on Food Network and yeah, mostly on Food Network before. Yeah.
Yeah. So they all often start out with the same ingredients,
Mhm.
right? And sometimes they give them a challenging ingredient that you're like, what the heck would somebody do with that kind
Yeah.
of thing, right? Like they give them stuff that's not that great. And it's amazing because every single one of those people creates something completely different. That comes from imagination. That
Sounds
comes
like
from the mind,
yeah,
right?
for
That
sure.
we can all have the same ingredients. They
Mhm.
can look like garbage to you if you don't have skill.
Mhm.
But if you have
Absolutely.
skill, you can find a way to pull out the best of those ingredients and create something original that nobody else could create. And that's what's really powerful about understanding life, and looking at, sometimes things like COVID, it seems like a bitter pill. It seems like something that we don't want. And it's like, okay, so there's this bitterness
Yeah.
that we can't avoid.
Mhm.
How can we pair richness with this? How can we draw out better from this? How can we tame the bitterness a little bit? Like not instead of resisting it, instead of treating it like garbage, instead of hiding from it, using what we have, and being a naturally like negative person, a lot of this was very difficult for me. And that was why like the way that I've looked at everything that I do in life again is through process and systems and problems and solutions. So I wanted to create systems that would work for transformation and crisis, even when you're in a really bad situation. Even when, so things that have worked for my clients throughout COVID, things that have worked for them as their businesses have, are just on the brink of starting, or as they're going through their own personal crisis and looking for a new start and a new beginning.
Yeah.
And I've seen these systems work consistently with them to the point that I know that they work. And that was what I created in my Manifest Your Dreams journal is I codified this system so that anybody can do it.
Oh.
And the reason that's so powerful is because I'm a realistic person. I don't think that everybody has hours every single day to work on their dreams. We are all busy people. We
Exactly.
all have
Yeah.
different lives and things going
Exactly.
on.
Exactly.
So I want to make it again a sustainable and realistic system.
Mhm.
So what I've designed is a 15-minute process that can start to create shifts very, very fast because it's very focused.
Mhm.
It's very strategic, really intentional about time of day, the questions that are being asked, the way that it's done. Um, and by doing that, we're spending just 15 minutes a day working on our dreams and allowing for things that seem like they'll take 5 years to happen in a couple of months. Breakthroughs that seem like they would take decades, in my Dream Accelerator group where I support people working with a journal and all that kind of stuff. I also combine some of the subconscious energy psychology work that I do. Because, I found it so powerful. I've used it with my clients, and, they have breakthroughs from things that they'd been struggling with for 50 years, 30 years, things that they thought that they'd never live without, just like I never thought that I wouldn't be shy and struggle being introverted, and all the things that I thought I would never be able to do. I see that it's not just possible for me, it's possible for my clients. It's possible to experience transformation even in horrific situations. And that's what I want people to know, like however painful, however difficult, like, 9/11 with everything going on in Afghanistan, like I felt triggered, and like there was a lot of pain and trauma that even came up for me with it being 20 years since then. It's like, it felt in many ways like I was back in that same place, like, and like out of control, feeling all of these different things. And I think that's that's a challenging place to be in right now, that in many ways we're in a very challenging place, globally,
for sure,
health-wise, politically, in many different ways. But even in that, if we can stand and see that there's opportunities for good, that we can build stronger here, that we can be intentional and create what we want, I think that that's important, that people know that that's possible and that they have tools and systems and guidance to do that.
Yeah, and especially with like everything going on. I would argue that with every challenge, of course, not just with the pandemic, not just with Afghanistan, and especially with your experience too. Like, I mean, you have dealt with adversaries, and from what I'm seeing right now, and from what you just told me, I could sense a lot of rebuilding happened. What would the words resilience and rebuilding mean to you now? How would you define them?
I think that people have a glorified idea of what resilience looks like, where they think that there's this person who's like emerging, like feeling really strong and like empowered the whole time. When in fact, I think that resilience is sweaty, it's uncomfortable, it's new growth, it's discovering power that you've never had before, right? It's like, it's a transformational process that doesn't feel good a lot of times, right? It's something that can be this discomfort, these challenges that we're going through. And what many of us do is we shrink away from it. We start to move away, we move in fear, we buy too much toilet paper, we do kind of like, we make these decisions out of fear, out of a place of constriction, instead of really being practical and thinking, is this something I need? Is this something I want to do? Like we just start acting in fear. And so I think resilience is kind of like a little bit of an emotional maturity of knowing, okay, I'm going to feel that fear, I'm going to feel that discomfort, and I'm not going to allow it to stop me. So I mentioned being working in the markets before, in the financial markets, and there's a quote by Warren Buffett where he says, be greedy when others are fearful, and be fearful when others are greedy. So when you can see these overall trends of people who are reacting in fear, what I've learned overall, whether it's running through the ups and downs of the market, or it's surviving 9/11, or it's like changing my whole life, becoming a chef, right? Or even getting sick and deciding to follow my dreams to move to Hawaii. Like, whatever the situation that you're in, you can look at that challenge and decide to allow it to take you down, or you can allow it to take you forward. And the same is true for us here. We get to decide, is this challenge going to take us down, or is it going to take us forward? And allowing it to take us forward is pulling out some of that good, right? Looking for lessons. What are the lessons that we can learn? What are the blessings we've gained? What is this painful time that we don't want to happen again, what does it tell us that we really want? You know, instead of us focusing on not wanting that pain again, how do we turn that survival mechanism of focusing on the fear, of focusing on the crisis and the danger at hand? How do we make more intelligent decisions? You know, by gathering the resources and the wits that we have about us to make rational decisions that are going to serve us in the long term and not just feed, you know, the self-soothing in the moment.
I see. And you mentioned lessons. Speaking of which, let's kind of recap. What would be like the life lessons you learned from like 9/11 that you apply now as a coach, as an entrepreneur, as an author?
I would say that the lesson that I take from 9/11 is that there's always opportunity for you to find treasure in something that looks like trash. And that whatever situation you're in, the more that you're willing to find good in it, the more that you're willing to decide that you have some form of control and exercise it, the more that you can change your life. But it does often require us letting go of this idea that we can do it all by ourselves, because rebuilding the city of New York after 9/11, rebuilding downtown, getting back to school, all that was a team effort that came with people banding together. So sometimes in crisis, we have these moments where we want to be alone, or we will kind of want to recoil and kind of hide or shrink. And really, that is more than ever, we need to band together, to come together, to create unity rather than to create division.
That rings true for today too. And now I know that you're the author of Manifest Your Dream. So let's go ahead and tell the audience about the book.
Yeah. So it's a 4-step process that I developed and tested with my clients, and that I've used in various crisis situations for myself. You know, I found that I was doing much of this unconsciously, and as I systematized it and was able to teach it, I found that it helped people shift their results even faster, because I kind of refined it and created focus around it. So being a naturally negative thinker, I realized the power of strategic gratitude. So I teach gratitude for the law of attraction, for manifesting your dreams, in a way to help you really tune your mind away from attracting more of the negative, more of what you don't want, and starting to tune your mind to focus and attract more of what you do want. Like I said, many of us were problem focused. We kind of go into that survivalist brain of like all the problems that are going on, everything that's going wrong, instead of tuning to the solution. And by tuning to the problems, by focusing on what's going wrong, we just continue to amplify that. So gratitude as a practice, if we use it strategically, we can actually use to attract more of what it is that we want. So that's the very first step in the 4-step process outlined in the journal. It's also really, though, when you're working with energy, understanding that it has to do with circulation. So it's not just about everything that you're receiving, but also what you're doing to bring the dream forth. So you can't just, you know, like sit on your butt, for example, and expect things to show up. You need to be moving energy.
Yeah.
So the part of gratitude that I think is also very important, that many perfectionists and people who are hard workers can kind of fall into this trap, is not celebrating themselves and seeing their progress enough. It's like they're doing a million things, they're constantly working, but they're not seeing how anything is moving forward. And so they lose momentum, or they lack momentum. And it feels like everything is harder and a struggle, because, you know, like it always seems like what they're doing is not enough. And that constant not enough energy makes it more difficult for them to continue making progress. So the second part of gratitude is not just for what's coming in, but also for the energy that we're sending out in alignment with our dreams. The second step, this was really transformative in a lot of the places where I had been stuck for a long time, and that was working with vision on a deeper and more powerful level. So when I understood that working with vision was really about seeing what I wanted with deeper clarity. Like first, really, it was understanding that the way that all of our minds work is through pictures. So, John, if I were to say to you, don't think about an elephant, John. Whatever you do, like, do not let an elephant, like, don't let that come into your mind. No elephants, no, do not think about an elephant. Like, what are you thinking about, John?
Man, I was thinking about an elephant.
Right? It's impossible for you to not have that image in your mind, even though you're saying no. Your mind does not understand the word no.
Yeah.
And the way that we transmit information, the way that we transmit energy most effectively is with pictures.
Yeah.
So when we're saying elephant, 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 even if the word no is there, you're still seeing an elephant.
Yeah.
So we need to, instead of focusing on what we don't want, that we're seeing, right, the problems that are immediately in front of us, we need to see instead, what's the solution? We need to be able to visualize the outcome we want. So in step 2, what we do is we bring specificity into that visualization with figuring out what are the top 3 things we want to manifest. We write those top 3 things down. And then the third step, this step was actually one of the hardest for me, being a hard worker. So I'm a natural, I have a naturally hard work ethic. I know many immigrants, many hardworking, people who've achieved some level of success can value hard work. And hard work is great, but it only takes you so far. And my life is proof of that, right? Like, I was willing to work as hard as it takes, but at some point it eventually starts to cost you in ways that aren't worth it. And so what we do with meditation is we combine that for 5 minutes with visualization. So it's 5 minutes gratitude, 5 minutes visualization and meditation, where we're seeing ourselves living that dream, having the dream solution, being that person, living that life that we really would love, right? Having that dream solution that we want. And then we ask ourselves a very strategic question, because what the power of questions is that a question tunes our mind to a specific vibration. So I could ask you, John, right? What's the worst thing that happened to you today? And then you could go on and on about something that's not, that like a low vibration conversation, basically.
Yeah.
Or I could ask you, John, what was one thing that showed up for you out of the blue today that was amazing and totally took you by surprise? And that can shift you into a completely different vibration. So when we ask a high quality question in meditation, then we can receive high quality answers. And the reason that meditation is so important is because it's a recognition, again, of energy going out and energy coming in, right? So we can't just keep pushing out and think that and wonder why nothing's happening. We're not working in alignment with law, with universal law. We need to allow for circulation. So we've got to create space where we're not doing and we're just sitting.
Yeah.
And we're relaxing. And we're just expecting answers to come to us about, what steps can I take to move forward in the direction of my dream? And then the last step, once we ask that question, immediately we tune our mind to answers. And so we spend 5 minutes writing down the answers and scheduling those steps. So we have them in our calendar, because it's the movement of energy in time space with repetition that's going to create the transformation. So that's the 4-step process in my journal. It's created amazing results for my clients where they're feeling better, whatever crisis they're facing. Within a week, they're feeling the difference. And within a month, if they're consistent with it for a month, they're literally seeing their results shift, where they're like, oh my God, I thought that this would take me years to overcome. I'm going to be over it by the end of this year. Like everything moves faster. New opportunities show up, partnerships, money, clients. It's really, really amazing what we can manifest when we are intentional and we have a system for it.
Can they get Manifest Your Dreams on Amazon, or where can they get it?
Yeah, so you can get the Manifest Your Dreams journal on Amazon. The easiest way is to look it up by my name. So DIANA GRE-mee-yawn, MILLION is my full name. And that's the easiest way to find the book on Amazon. It's $33.33. And if you want to combine that guidance with some energy healing, I also have the Dream Accelerator, which is a monthly membership that combines energy healing, energy psychology, and the law of attraction with support and guidance. And that's $111 a month.
Is that like from your website or?
Yeah, so if you go to dianagre.com, that is my website, and you can find out information about the course there.
I see. What about on social media? Where can they find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm probably most active on Instagram. So if you're on Instagram, that's diana.gre-mee-yawn. I'm also on Facebook at Diana Gremillion Speaks. It's all one word, diana.gre-mee-yawn Speaks, SPEAKS. And then I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me by my first and last name, or yeah, even YouTube I'm on.
Thanks for being here, and thank you for sharing your story and especially your experience. A lot of it, and just like everything that you said about rebuilding and resilience, especially with this pandemic going on. Yeah, everyone, to be quite honest, especially the ones here, they could, the people here in Texas, I would argue, or yeah, we could use a lot of rebuilding today, and because you mentioned division a while ago and stuff, but we could use a lot of rebuilding today. So, but like, thank you again. Thank you. It's an honor. Seriously. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and sub official TJPS channel. You guys know the drill. Everything will be linked down below, and Ms. Gremillion's social medias will be down below again. So again, thank you. We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, John.